David Quaid is joining the podcast once again. And David, you're going to be talking about how to rank in LLMs.
Absolutely, and thanks for having me back. I think there's a lot of information or misinformation about how people get visibility in search engines and LLM search engines. And this is something that is really close to my heart because I am a big believer in SEO and that democratization of access to people. And I think you covered a story that was on our SEO a while back about how geo companies were paying SEOs to spread disinformation. And there's a lot of things about like how LLMs cite things and how LLMs are looking for things like Schema, which is not true. Mark Williams Cook did an excellent debunking of that, right?
I made an episode on that as well.
Okay, excellent. So glad you did that. Another one I have to go back to. So what I wanted to share with people today is understanding the query fan out. And if you can understand the query fan out, you can directly link SEO to LLM visibility. What's interesting is that Profound actually came out with a blog post last week saying it's the query fan out. And I think for a while they had been in the camp of, oh, it's all about citations and brand marketing and things like that. It's not. LLMs are not search engines, and I think that's a fundamental sort of default thinking that a lot of people have. They assume that an LLM is trained with all this information. It's sort of like a cached version of the entire web, and that they can give results. They don't. They cannot store that amount of information. They couldn't store the amount of information that Google handles in an hour. And so it's very important to know that with PageRank, with Google, even if they're using Bing or Claude in the case of Brave Search in the case of Claude, they're actually using standard SEO to rank things, but they're breaking down the prompt into different queries. So I just pulled up a random example here, best SaaS SEO case studies, and you'll see Zapier ranking, Slack, Ahrefs, and I think a lot of people see the citations, and what people might see is that they're putting in a search phrase that they're not ranking for, right? So the reason I'm using Perplexity is this is just a little bit easier to do in Perplexity and a little harder to do in ChatGPT, but you can do the same. You just need a QFO tool, and maybe I can share that online to put in your YouTube description afterwards. So when you look at the assistant steps, in this case it's the same thing, right? So best SaaS SEO case studies, best SaaS SEO case studies. But I wanted to have a look at something that I rank for because I'm also really, really skeptical about EAT in SEO. And I don't think that EAT is something that Google can detect. Google has said that they can't detect, but it's ever present. It's very present in sort of a lot of marketing information on LinkedIn and X and on Reddit. So let's put in EAT SEO guide and see what comes back. And so here we can see the change straight away. That's what I would be looking at if I was for ranking. So I try to rank for these phrases to sort of help balance the amount of information out there. And what Perplexity is searching today, and this would have been different a month ago, and we call that difference or that change the drift, is it's broken up into E-E-A-T SEO guide and 2025. So adding 2025 is very common in the query fan out, and you'll see it matches a lot of the page titles for some of the content that's ranking here. So if you go to your search console and start looking at what do you rank for, if you're ranking for EAT SEO guide, and then you go to ChatGPT and type in the same search phrase and you see different results, it's not because the LLM has a different search ranking algorithm. It's because it's changed the search query. And if I take this search query instead of the prompt and I do a search in Google, I'll see that all of the results are exactly the same in almost exact order. And what happens is Perplexity actually sends its crawlers to fetch each of these documents in real time to make that synthesized answer on the home page. The crawl, I think people think that the crawlers go out all day, every day, like Google crawlers, and are building up a copy of the web. This is a real-time scenario. And you can literally rank in Google now, and in 2 minutes repeat the search in Perplexity and see that you're actually in the results, even if you weren't there 10 minutes ago.
And you're saying the query fan outs are different for for different LLMs?
They're different for different LLMs, and they're different at different times of the day. So let's take another one that I think a lot of your audience might be interested in.
By the way, can you zoom in a bit more?
Yes,
It'll be easier.
I can.
Thank
so
you.
let's take an example for a best SaaS product, best SaaS CRM for a company with 200 people. So one of the big differences with LLMs is that people, let's just do this in the auto industry. A lot of people are getting into deeper, more complex prompts, right? They know they're not dealing with Google anymore. And so sometimes we can actually see much more complicated fan outs with up to 3 queries. And I'm not able to generate one, so I'm just going to stop and try different. So recommend a better CRM for my sales team at my car parts e-commerce website. And see what that does. Oh, and again, it just doesn't want to play play properly for us today. But again, it's actually broken the query down into something much more simple today. Before, I would have actually expected maybe 3 fan outs, and then we would have got 30 results. Here you can see there are just 8 results. And again, if we take the search, we'll see that basically a lot of big websites rank. And I think this is adding to, and I'll zoom in here again. I think this is adding to the frustration and the confusion that the LLMs are preferring more, much bigger brands, right? But what happens is with these drifts is that they tend to rank sites with a lot more authority. Like Intuit Solutions doesn't seem to have 2025 in here, and neither does Hedges and Company, but Slashdot does. And so you can see that if you're ranking for example, best CRM for, let's say, car parts website without 2025, you may actually see a different set of results. And if you're ranking in this, like for example here we see Smith.ai, now we see Reddit appearing. And so that also brings into play this other idea that LLMs prefer Reddit. It's not that they prefer Reddit, it's just that Reddit often crops up in Google's rankings.
That's a good point. That's a very important point.
Absolutely.
But
and
there
so,
was, this method of marketing is so effective, I had to make sure it wasn't against Google's rules before I kept doing it. It's a form of SEO I call compact keywords. Whereas most SEO focuses on putting up articles to answer questions how, what, when, compact keywords focuses on putting up dozens of pages that sell to searchers who are actually looking to buy. These pages rank on Google and convert so much better than normal that when I discovered this years ago, I couldn't believe this was allowed. It's less work too. The average compact keywords page is only 415 words. Compact Keywords is a 13-hour deep course on getting sales with SEO. A customer recently said, "Each lesson is dense with information. You're giving years worth of experience boiled down into 15 to 30-minute lessons with no filler or fluff. I feel like I'm gaining a new superpower." Compact Keywords is about setting up an SEO funnel that brings you sales for years and years and years. It works with AI, it's less work than traditional SEO, and it makes way more money. You can get it now at compactkeywords.com. Back to the podcast. Actually what was very interesting. So when I had on Jackie Chu on the show, which was funny because that was the day after you first came on. And so I was talking about how, Reddit is always being cited in ChatGPT. But then he actually called me out. He's like, no, it was just dropped from ChatGPT entirely. And I couldn't get it cited in ChatGPT, even though it is still cited all the time within Google. So I suppose for that moment, it could have been instructed to omit Reddit results within ChatGPT.
I wonder if you look at the results sometimes in Google, let's just do a search for best credit advice. There's a certain type of position ranking in Google, right? So Here we have Experian at the top. We have the people also ask, which obviously every SEO knows that this is an important part of developing topical authority, which we spoke about in our last thing. This is the discussions and forum band. And this band is always reserved for Reddit and other forums. Here we see Facebook. If you go to Ireland, for example, you'll see boards.ie, which is the biggest forum board in Ireland. And I wonder if ChatGPT is just ignoring this, whereas I think the average user just sees Reddit.
Yeah.
And these are the actual organic results. And then you get perhaps a YouTube result. I'm sure you're familiar with seeing YouTube in between the rankings as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I wonder if ChatGPT knows that this result is really a boosted result, if that makes sense. And that's why they're cutting it out.
Interesting.
Because I think we've seen, I think Barry Schwartz covered this, that a lot of ChatGPT's results are coming from Google. I don't know if that's, I suspect it's something to do with Microsoft slowing them down and breaking up the, was it Windsurf deal? With their legal analysis taking too long, and Google came in the background and bought out the executive team for $200 million. Or if Bing is just too slow, or just has the worst results. That's what I suspect.
Yeah, it could be a few things. There's been so many tests of people showing, yeah, look, this is indexed on Google, this is not indexed on Bing, and here ChatGPT is citing it.
Exactly. And that makes sense. I think I think the tools are promising. I know Perplexity, sort of that's their strapline. We're getting you results that are free of SEO, and I suspect that's why they have the drift, to try and circumvent SEO tactics. But that just means it's still based on Google, which means it's as susceptible to everything that Google is susceptible to. So really, LLM results are dependent A, on Google getting better, and B, on how they direct Google through the drift.
Talk about the drift a little bit more.
So the drift is basically where, based on the results that they get back in the first search, whether or not they do more searches, and then whether or not they add different keywords to the phrase that they sort of outsource to the search engines. And I suspect that that's done to get better results for the synthesization, but also to get around people using SEO, by sort of like constantly moving the search phrase so that only the websites that rank for the most things are always cited, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And what I wanted to talk about there next was how to look at what kind of queries are coming into your Google Search Console, and how you can use Google Search Console to have a look at what's happening. So I have a test website called Money Asset Lifestyle. I picked it because I wanted to go as YMYL as possible. I can't think of anything that I could buy for $12 that had more YMYL in it. And I think one of the interesting phrases that we found is the word evaluate. So let me just zoom in here and make this more readable. Evaluate in Google can often be synonymous with compare, but if you take some of your pages, and I think that's the way to understand drift, is you may need to publish the same articles under different key phrases to target those different drift phrases, but you'll start to see a lot of deeper searches, very, very long searches that use the word evaluate that have no clicks. And you'll also notice the average position is in the top 10. In other words, not one of these phrases is above 10.
Right.
They're all within 10.
Right.
And that's because the query fan out only returns the top 10 results. Yet you've got no clicks. We've got 170 queries on a single blog post on, if you trust DA measurement, this site has a DA of like 2, right? It's a very low DA site. But here's all of the deep queries, right? Evaluate fintech company ramp, evaluate fintech company ARC on banking and finance, evaluate company ARC on banking for consulting firms. All very deep, top 3 positions, not a single click. These are all LLM fan out. So you might be thinking at home, oh, I just can't get into LLMs. You're already there. However, if you want to measure the clicks, you've got to go somewhere completely different, because the clicks come from referral traffic, not from search traffic. And the best way to do that is through Looker Studio. So I have a Looker Studio report that I built, very easy to build, but it would take me a long time to show you how to do it, but we can maybe cover that another time.
Yeah.
What I've done is I've brought together the different LLM engines. So I've got ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Claude. This just a monthly graph for that traffic. So it tells me, hey, ChatGPT was really going up. Then everyone noticed ChatGPT was sending less traffic. But actually my Perplexity traffic went from 9 to 12 to 13 clicks. And then here I can see what pages the traffic came from. And I can also import any of my GA4 goals or key events. So if somebody made a telephone call or if they sent a contact form, I can tie it to the engine and which landing page they came in. So did it come in through my top SEO YouTube channels page or my dwell time page or my top experts page? And I can...
You said it took you a long time to set this up, to set this dashboard up?
When I say took me a long time, I mean it took like 20 minutes.
You can that'll be a great episode. You will totally do that. Yeah.
You can also get people on Fiverr to do this for $20.
What would someone search on Fiverr?
Looker Studio report.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll jump over to analytics and I'll show everyone how to do an analytics. How's that?
That's great.
So basically, the reason for using GA4 is I just couldn't tie the engines together in one report. But you can definitely get all of this straight away from your analytics engine.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just zoom in to
great.
It's a little bit readable. So under reports, we're going to look for traffic acquisition. This could be under generate leads or a number of different reports, but it'll always be called traffic acquisition.
I think Harpreet has shared this a lot as well on X. He has a bunch of guides on this.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Glad to be mirroring someone. Like I always say, if someone tells you this is how a search engine works or an LLM works, ask for proof, right? Ask for a screenshot. You should be able to do the same thing, right? Remember, these engines are citing data all the time. They're citing web pages. If someone else can do it, they've got to be able to prove it, right? That's just critical. So the first thing you want to do is look for source. Source is the UTM source, and it allows you to pick, referral. What we're going to put in here is ChatGPT. Oh, sorry, I put this in the wrong place. I need to put source as the primary. And then I'm going to ask GA4 to show me the landing page. It still says query string, even though Google stopped sending query strings 12 years ago. This particular site doesn't have a lot, but it's coming into my blog post about financial independent retirement early books.
Mm-hmm.
So what I might just do is just change this over to a different site that just maybe has more pages coming in.
Yeah.
So we'll just do this again. We're going to look for source. I can put in Perplexity here. I could put in Claude. I'm going to put in ChatGPT because that's people think is. You can see my ChatGPT traffic is actually going up, right? Which is interesting.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to turn on landing page. And I think this is what people pay a lot for, a lot of visibility tools, and it's great to have that automation. But I wanted to show you another trick. So this is the data, right? This is telling me for all of the searches that people are doing, these are the pages that ultimately people click through. And I reckon there's somewhere around a 1 to 0.1% click-through rate, which is horrendous if you're used to SEO and 1 to 40% click-through rates, right? If I look at some of the evaluate search phrases in Google Search Console, I look at the amount of clicks I get, it could be as low as 0.001%. But
so this is the referral traffic from ChatGPT.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And while it does also give a UTM source equals ChatGPT, this is the way to get all of the traffic. It only stamps source equals ChatGPT to about maybe 10-15% of the traffic, so you're better off doing it this way. But here's a really cool technique I use to figure out. What I do is I just do a screen grab, and I take a screenshot, and I go over to Perplexity, and I'll just copy and paste it in, and I'll say, guess the prompts people use
cool.
to get to these pages from ChatGPT. And it's a pretty good place to start. So if you are using a geo tool, or if you just want to get some ideas about what you want to search for, these are some great prompts. How does ChatGPT compare with SEMrush for SERP analysis, for example? Or SEMrush versus ChatGPT for SEO research? What is SEO dwell time? Or explain dwell time for SEO optimization? Or best blogs to follow?
And so you get this information, and then what do you do with this information?
So you would then take this back. Let's pick one here. Let's pick this long one here. Difference between Google Search Console and Google Analytics sessions. So this is a common question when people go to Google Search Console, they see they've had 5,000 clicks, they go to Analytics and it's showing 2,500 clicks from Google. And they're like, how could this be? Most of the time that's because of cookies. But what we'll do is we'll take this prompt and we'll put it back into Perplexity.
I want to make a shout out to David. Everyone should go and follow David on X. And if you have an SEO question, at David on X, and David's going to answer it. David is extremely responsive on X and very generous with his time.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm here to help crush myths and solve problems. What's interesting here is it's taken the prompt, it's gone to Google, and look, it's quoted my blog post as the primary result.
So you put it in, and you got okay. So would you look at maybe the queries that Perplexity thinks would be used, and then maybe you realize that you don't actually cover this topic on your page, and then you're like, oh, this is something that I should add into the page that I made.
Correct. So earlier I was having a look because I do have a page for YouTube. So what are the best YouTube channels for SEO? And I just wanted to see if this would be an example that would come up. So here are some SEO channels, Ahrefs, Neil Patel, and I noticed I didn't have your channel.
I know, this is garbage. This is a garbage list. What's going on?
But if you look here, I'm actually cited here.
You are
4 times.
Yeah.
Right. All right. And I just updated my blog post 10 minutes ago because I noticed it was looking. See the way it added 2025, and if I come back here.
So you added me into your blog post.
I changed my blog post to this earlier and saved it, and then I got Google to recall it.
There I am. I'm number 5. Thank you for that.
There you are.
Yeah.
So hopefully, when somebody does the search later today, you'll be in that list. And
thank you so much.
I literally crawled this 10 minutes ago. So
oh my gosh.
I think it's actually even in my history. Yeah, there it is there.
I'm extremely flattered. There. Thank you.
Request indexing and updated, and I re-ranked in Google straight away for that search phrase.
Awesome.
Another great way, and actually a lot of geo tools do this. If you're wondering about, well, I'm used to ranking for best plumber in Boston, or best SEO agency in Seattle, or whatever it is, and you're like, what are people typing in today? A trick I picked up is, and let's do this in ChatGPT because I think that it's quite good at this. So let's just zoom in. Search Reddit for my ICP. So this is if you're using ChatGPT and it knows your personality and it knows your business and it understands the type of work you're doing. For people looking for cybersecurity agencies and what questions they're asking that. Also, you can make typos in your own content, and
a million typos. Yeah.
That they're asking as prompts.
Have you used DevTools to view ChatGPT query fanouts?
I have. There is a tool from SEO Pub, who's a very active member.
I had him on the show. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Mike Friedman?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, he's got a tool. I keep forgetting to save it, but I will send it to you so you could add.
But even just using Chrome DevTools to do it, Chris Long had a really good. He made a good tutorial on it, and then I made that tutorial as well on Instagram, and it did really well. But it's cool.
So here's a great way to uncover what people might be searching for that you didn't think about, and using Reddit to help.
So wait, can you go back to your prompt?
Yes. what what people ask when shopping for a cybersecurity agency. So it went to our MSP, it went to our Ask NetSec, it went to our cybersecurity, and cyber insurance, security incidents, backup and restore processes. Do they have SOC 2 compliance, for example?
Yeah.
And so, how do you currently assess the maturity of your cybersecurity vendors? What criteria do you ask? What do you think of a vendor incident? What's worst case? So these are things that I think a lot of people don't think to ask when they're building marketing content. And this is a great way to actually not spend 10 days on Reddit reading every single question and answer. You can use the LLM and get it to summarize. Look, this is the heart of what people are asking. And then
can you scroll all the way up to the prompt that you put in? I just want to read it out loud. Search Reddit for my ICP for people looking for cybersecurity agencies and what questions they're asking as prompts. That's excellent.
And there's so much learning here, and it really takes out the bias that I think a lot of us as marketers put into content.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of we need to say this, or we need to look like this. At the end of the day, you need to be present for what your ICP is searching for. And if that's not the heart of SEO, then I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Oh, if you were to give an overview for how to rank in LLMs, just like a generalized overview, how would you summarize it?
I would start at my different LLM tools, whether it's Grok or Perplexity or Claude, and I would just start thinking, what are people searching for? You don't have to be you don't have to have a subscription. I don't have a subscription to Claude. It's free, and I would just start trying to think about what I'm ranking for in Google. So top SEO agencies in New York.
I think a better question is, to what extent should people be focused on ranking in LLMs versus trying to do the best SEO that they can, knowing that the more SERPs that they appear in, the more they'll be covered in LLMs?
Absolutely. That's why I would start here, right? In the sense that I'm ranking first here simply because I'm ranking in this list of results.
Right.
And I'm ranking in here twice because I'm in here and I'm in Clutch.
And you gave the example. You changed your page, you submitted it to Google Search Console, so then the LLMs are going to pick it up.
Exactly. And you can literally take a search where you don't appear, go and create content for it, publish it, and come back and test. And you need to test it a few times so that you can figure out how the query drifts and changes over time. And then you can account for that or modify or add to your content so that you can be ever present.
So you're looking,
looking
at the searches that Perplexity is doing so that you know the right language to use in your content.
Exactly. And here's Claude, and Claude doesn't use Google. It uses Brave Search, which is a German search tool, but it's 100% PageRank clone, and it works almost exactly the same way as Google.
Right.
And I think I said on our first cast, nothing has beaten PageRank, and this stands over that, right?
Yeah. That for anyone who hasn't listened, so actually I think that's my highest performing guest episode now, was our episode. Oh shit.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So for people who haven't listened, that's episode 846 of the show, the SEO playbook that actually works, PageRank, Topical Authority, and Real Results. And that one is like a 2-hour banger episode that people just love and love and love and love. Yeah. And this episode too, you shared some cool stuff. And especially just seeing the language, showing how to see the language that here. So do you know the DevTools way to do it in ChatGPT?
I don't. Do you want to show me?
Yeah, I'll show you. So can you go to ChatGPT? Okay. So this is how to find query fanouts in ChatGPT. So search something that ChatGPT will actually search the web for, like fall or maybe winter 2025 fashion trends.
I found if you ask it for anything now or 2025, it does a web search. So you say what,
fall, winter, whatever, 2025 fashion trends. Because date specific, it's a lot more likely to do a search. And this is to see the actual language that ChatGPT is searching with.
Okay.
So we have this, and what's so funny is if you ask ChatGPT what it searched, it won't actually tell you the exact, it doesn't know. If you say, what did you search to find this? It doesn't know. It'll tell you what it thinks it searched, but it won't actually tell you what it searched. So what you have to do is you have to right-click inspect.
Okay.
No, not view page source.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Inspect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then can you increase the size of this?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, there we go. And go to network. Good. And so now go to the URL and copy the string that starts after C /.
Okay.
And paste that into the filter or the search. Is it the filter or the filter? Paste that into the filter and then refresh the page. And now, so open this up on the bottom. Or perfect. So now click on the orange bracket. The orange bracket, yeah. So click good, and now go to response, and then do a search within this for queer, as in QUER, and then it'll show what it actually.
Scroll queries.
Yeah. And this is what it searched.
Ah, amazing.
Yeah. So I got this from Chris Long, shared this on LinkedIn, and I'm like, that's cool. And then I learned it and I made videos on it.
That's so interesting because one of the things I found so funny is when I'm so there's a lot of dead web happening on Reddit. There's a lot of subs that are allowing bots, and companies have 5 bots in one conversation. So the one bot will come in and go like, hey, we have a case study of 400 data points, right? And we analyze this and this and this. Now there's no reference to the data. There's just the summary of the case study. And I think that's got to be a red flag, right? If you can't point to where the data is, and then you'll see other bots coming in and saying, "Oh yeah, this is exactly what I thought," and you see the bots talking. It's like the dead web in real life. It's like bots talking to bots, and people reply to it, and I think that's awful because the bots are never going to respond to you, and the same bots are having the same conversation in other Reddits that allow them to have that conversation. But if you actually start to challenge the people who spread this information, if you go to Perplexity and say, how do you work? Or like you said, if you ask ChatGPT, how does it work? It either makes it up, or Perplexity will actually go and do a Google search and come back, and it'll share what a blog post tells it how it works. And I think I said it as well to you before that these aren't research tools. And I think that's a real danger, right? They're just going to Google and they're like, if you ask Perplexity how it indexes content, it's just going to Google and say, how does Perplexity index content? And it's giving you a blogger's version, and that might or might not be wrong. Chances are it's actually wrong. And I know that because I can insert my own blog post in there and change it. And I know that I don't know how it actually works. So I know that it's not an actually valid research tool.
Yeah, it's really scary. Actually, I had Alejandro Meyerhans. He's a link builder on this show. That was a really popular episode. And I talked with him. We just went totally off the rails. And I was talking with him about the Fermi paradox. I don't know if you're familiar with the Fermi paradox? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Fermi paradox is like the universe has been around for such a long time, and it's so big that it's just inevitable that there would be, and the rate of spread for any sufficiently intelligent civilization would eventually be enough that this time we would just be bombarded with signals from alien civilizations. Statistically speaking, if you do the math, statistically speaking, we should be bombarded with signals from alien civilization, and we're not. And the question is, why? And so I had this thought. I'm like, well, what if it's because every upcoming civilization invents generative AI, and then they pollute their knowledge base with AI slop that is hallucinated, and now no one can get the correct answer to important things anymore, and progress just stagnates. But like it seems like funny and far-fetched and silly, but the reality is every year more pages or more research papers are citing hallucinated AI content.
Absolutely.
And no one's people will try to avoid it, but it is still happening, and it's still happening in research papers, and it's happening all over the open web. And like that AI slop as a service, like look how we can game Google with many thousands of unchecked AI generated pages. One, that gets caught eventually, but two, when it's not caught, then people are learning off of this hallucinated AI content. And
that's what's happening on LinkedIn, right? There's a lot of well-to-do marketing people who want to help other marketers and say, look, I figured out how it works. It's citing Reddit or it's citing this. But they're actually operating on misinformed content. It goes back to, and we see this all over the place, where people say, I'm doing my research. They're watching videos on YouTube. I doubt that's how Harvard or NASA work, right? I don't think they bring in engineers and they sit and watch YouTube and call it research. So I think that just by sitting down and having a chat with ChatGPT, I don't think that's research. And I think people need to be careful of that. Yeah. You raised an interesting point about the Fermi paradox, something I thought as when I first read Dr. Stephen Hawking's book as a teenager. If you look at one of the interesting paradoxes is that if you're an Alpha Centauri, which is the closest star group to us that may support a sort of like life-supporting planet, if they had a telescope big enough to see Earth, they would still see dinosaurs, because that's how many billions of years light is taken across. And so even the closest stars to us, they were only close billions of years ago. And so if they're moving at close to the speed of light, they're actually even trillion. So I think it's actually getting harder and harder for life to even catch up with us unless they can get around the speed of light. And I think that's the problem. Either we can get past the speed of light or we can't. And then that's why we've actually never had any contact.
You think that's it's the speed of light limitation is the solution to the Fermi paradox?
Well, NASA's already put the Voyager, was it Voyager that left the solar system 10 years ago? It's moving at like 1 million miles an hour, right? Because there's no gravitational force, there's no, it's in a vacuum. So it's literally, it used Pluto's gravitational push to spin out into the universe. It'll take tens of thousands of years to get in, to touch anything else. And that still hasn't left our solar system, right?
Right.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So we can already, once we get out of the gravitational pull of the Earth, we can move at 1 million miles an hour. It's just not fast enough.
I don't remember to be honest, I don't remember the exact reason for the Fermi paradox. If it was like you measure the rate of progress of any civilization, and by this amount of time they should. I don't even know if the Fermi paradox supposes that civilizations should have faster than light speed. I can't say that I remember that, and maybe it doesn't. And so, like, yeah, sure, that would be because the universe is expanding. So
yeah, that would be my take. And I think we're also seeing with the James Webb Telescope, we're seeing galaxies further out, way further out.
Yeah, this is two SEOs discussing.
I know.
discussing the universe,
so I think,
science fiction.
I think, but one of my takeaways that I would love people to do is, like, if someone tells you something and you can't go and prove it, but also if you can't disprove it, right? Like I see a lot of SEO, like I got into a debate with someone about not using meta description, and this person got really upset that you have to have a meta description. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you don't need a meta description. I have pages that rank for what is Google that don't have meta descriptions. My my team know that I don't allow meta descriptions on my own blog as much as possible.
Wow.
Because Google writes them in, right?
Yeah,
and I'll demonstrate it.
I recommend them as a best practice, but I also acknowledge that they're not necessary at all.
So here's ranking, right? Apple, here I am, right? Above Google Help, above Google. And this page doesn't have a meta description because it's grabbing the text from the page. And it ranks just fine, and it's one of my top pages, and the content is
it's so funny,
relatively terrible. But I see a lot of people saying like I always put an image, or I use five. I've got 5 bullet points, or I've got at least 6 headings, and I'm like, have you tried it without? Right? What happens if you try it without doing it? And I think people are almost getting superstitious, and they're like, oh, I'm afraid to do it, and it's like, why? Why are you afraid to do it? You shouldn't be afraid to try it without an image or with an image, right? And I think if you're saying, well, it works all the time, that's why it works, you're not really being very scientific about it.
Some people are in the stress of, oh my God, I need to get results now. That's when the most problems are caused, is when people feel that stress of, I need to get results yesterday. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you need to get results, right, it tends to be a series of results, right? So if you've got a SERP tracker, you're probably tracking more than 50 queries. So if you've got 100 search phrases and each search phrase requires 10 pieces of content, you're now at what, 1,000, 10,000 pieces of content that you have to write and publish. You now need to reduce the number of steps. So if you've got and someone wrote this on Reddit, an everything SEO bagel, right? Where you've got everything in the page. You've got bullet points, images, schema, alt tags, everything, right? The more things you do, the longer that's going to take. So if you really want to chase long-term results, I believe you have to bring it down to the minimum viable product.
Can you, we were talking about this before the call. Can you share your opinion on if schema is necessary or not, and if so, how necessary is it to show up in LLMs? Because a lot of people will say, you've probably heard it, yeah, if you want to get better LLM visibility, use schema. It's so important.
It's so not important. If you take like all of the content that I've been ranking today, like what is Google, there's no schema in here. The schema for a blog article contains nothing. It just contains the publisher, right? It just contains, and you also see there's no publisher on this page. There's no EAT in this page, right? There's no schema for this post that tells you anything that is in the post. You need the post. The schema doesn't replace the post, and the schema doesn't have anything in it that tells you more about the post than the post does. Where schema is really useful is if you're trying to do something like flight departures from New York today, or let's just do PBI. If Google wants to grab things like this review data, or if it wants to grab this information from a page, you absolutely need schema. You're going to struggle to get in here without schema. But that's a very specific case where trying to put, writing out New York versus NY, the time, using 24-hour clocks or 12-hour clocks, using codes, using airline's full name or their short code. That's what schema is really good for, and that's what you need schema for here. But for the most part, 99% of content, the schema doesn't add value to the content. And I think you were covering, you said before we started the call that Google's deprecating more schema types.
Yeah, they're nutrition facts and events events near me. Both of those are being deprecated.
If you can't get into Google, then chances are you're not getting into LLMs, right? So for an LLM to prefer schema, it's got to have all of the results. It then has to be able to stack the results with schema versus no schema, and then it has to try and pick what it has left, what's the right content. And Google keeps saying, if schema helps us delimit content, if sort of like having a certain amount of other things helps us find content. Those are signals. But when page speed, for example, they're never going to show a page because it's faster over a page that's better, right? Because scammers can put in schema. Scammers can make pages get 100% score on CWVs, for example. So this idea that schema sort of is magical and shows some sort of technical proficiency that is some sort of trust signal, it doesn't work, right? Because scammers can do it too. People that want to present misinformation can do it too. People who want to hack Google results can do it too. It's not a third-party control that adds value and validates something. And so I just think it's nonsense.
The thing that annoys me a lot about schema is that marketing agencies, SEO agencies will charge a lot of money for unnecessary schema implementation because it's a pain to implement. It's a pain to implement, and it's a pain to maintain. And so agencies will, but for a blog post is like pretty. That's like pretty basic. But still, like, agencies will charge a lot of money to people who don't know better, saying like you need this to get results. And and then people are like. Then people will go with an agency, and then they'll have a bad taste in their mouth about SEO. Yeah, I paid this agency all this money. I didn't get any results. And it's just, there's so many shady SEO agencies out there that will do things like that. And it's a problem that I have.
It's not just SEO agencies. I think it's web designers as well. There are a lot of web developers coming onto Reddit saying, someone will say, I'm not ranking, and it'll be because of like crawl discovered, which we covered the last time. And I'm like, I'll put a link to this page and make it rank, which means all of the people saying it's content quality, that's gone, or people saying it's too thin, that's gone. If you can get a link to that page and Google ranks it, then it couldn't have been a content quality issue. There are people that reply to these posts and say, you don't have enough schema. I'm like, I don't have any schema. There really are. They're guys, and they're not shy about hiding the fact that they're at schema agencies. So schema agencies have started to pop up, which is terrifying. I think they think, well, schema is a structured way of like creating entities and relationships between entities. And I'm like, maybe, but that doesn't mean it's not. And I think someone used schema to take ownership of an entity in Google, right? So just by publishing who they were and then adding one of their assets in the schema, Google started publishing that in one of their knowledge graphs. And I think people are overreading in between the knowledge graph and Google's supposed understanding of the internet. I think Google doesn't understand the internet. That would be impossible.
What should people be focusing on instead of schema?
I think people should be right back to topical authority. They should be looking at what are they ranking about, what are the keywords they're getting clicks on, how do they understand their Search Console information. If you're looking to figure out your first blog post, SEMrush, Google Ad Planner, they're the great places to start for guessing. But they only have access to maybe 5% of the keyword universe, right? Like how many keywords are being used every day. But if you actually want real data, you've got to take a guess. You've got to publish. I call it, establishing a beachhead. So you establish a beachhead, you get a page onto page one, you will now start to see more keyword information than you'll ever see in a keyword research tool. You will see lots of different variations, long tail. You'll see keywords that you're ranking on page 8 for, which means they're actually very high volume queries. And if you start to see queries,
can you talk about that a little bit more? So you said you'll see keywords that you're ranking on page 8 for, which means they're very high volume.
Yes, if you're on page 8, let's say you're position 76 or 72, and you see 130 impressions, that means that a very small percent of people, like less than 1% of people, will actually go all the way to page 8 to look for a result. If you're on page 8 and you're seeing impressions, that means the page 1 impressions are going to be 10 to 100 times higher. And we call it in
And so what do you do? So what do you do when you notice that? What's the next step for an SEO?
You start looking at will I bring up Search Console and actually show you?
Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
This is exactly how I got to the top for what is Google LLC, right?
Does that has volume behind it?
It does. Now, if you go to SEMrush, it'll tell you there's no volume, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to trust a lot of SEO tools for volume
they get their
analysis.
data from ads, right? And ads only stores the data if people are buying it. And so if you look at it, they'll tell you like, what is Google LLC has a search volume of 300 per month. Actually, it's a lot higher. And if you look down here, there's on just the word Google LLC, there's actually all of these variations in all of these languages.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so what you can do is you can see most of them are in the top 10, and then suddenly Google's LLC is 20. You can see Google LLC company profile and ranking 16. So I now have topical authority to expand to this, and I could go and write a blog post, and I'd probably go to the top 3 straight away.
When do you make a new post for something that an existing page is ranking for versus add that to the existing page?
Great question. So this comes down to whether or not the page is an exact match or a broad match. So if this was on a page just called Google, I would probably struggle to get this on a new page, and the new page would probably either cannibalize if it was successful, or if it was unsuccessful, it would just render out. And so if I was using a high volume root keyword like the word Google, I would put this in page. If I had a very specific page, in this case it's an FAQ that directly matches what is Google LLC, I would have to do this as a new page. If I was ranking 9, 10, 11, I would probably do it as a H2 on the same page.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my rough rule of thumb.
Yeah. David, you're awesome. We could this episode was supposed to be 30 minutes. We could go on for much longer.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think you're such a great host, and you bring out the best in everyone you speak to, and maybe we can do another one when my new work from home office opens up. We'll do a podcast from there.
We have one. So we have one scheduled for December with Mr. Barry Schwartz.
Excited.
Yeah, that's going to be a
So
really
excited
good one.
for that.
And you have a list of just. You're welcome back anytime, and I'm looking forward to the other things that we're going to cover. This was a lot of fun.
Why don't we get some people to leave some comments on your video and tell us what they want to hear about, and we'll try and cover those.
Yeah, that'd be good. That's a good idea. People, feel free to leave us some comments. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please go to the YouTube and just drop a comment or two. All right. David, so where should everybody find you for people who aren't already following you?
You can find me on X, you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find me on Reddit as primary position SEO.
Cool. All right. Thank you, David. And for everybody watching and listening, this is episode 859 of The Edward Show. Yeah, 859 days in a row. Thank you. 859 days in a row doing this podcast. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.